Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the discussion today here at IPL Radio. My name's Alistair, not Tris, but you can call me whatever you like. And I'd like to welcome you all here to have a nice little discussion, a debate, if you will, about the upcoming election in the Rockingham ward and what you hope to achieve if the people elect you. Now, pop quiz. Who knows the date that is coming up?
21st of October.
Very good, sir. Excellent. 21st of October is right, and it is a postal vote only. So if you haven't received your material to do that, I recommend getting in touch with your local council building, and they will send someone out to fix that problem. Make sure that you can contribute your vote to this important decision. So if we could go around the room and just have a quick introduction. You tell us what you're standing on, tell us a little about yourself and what you'd like to achieve. So Kelly, can we start with you, please? Kelly Middlecoat.
Thanks for having us today. My name's Kelly Middlecoat and I'm running for the Baldivis ward in the Rockingham Council Elections. So to start at the beginning, my family ties back to Rockingham 70 years, so I'm second generation Rockinghamian. My grandparents moved over from Italy after World War II. So my mum did all of her schooling here from pre-primary right through to high school, and likewise I did too. So I've really grown up in Rockingham. I understand its history. I've seen it develop. I've seen the challenges that it has faced and is currently facing. As a long-standing resident, I'm really highly invested in Baldivis and Rockingham's future. I moved to Baldivis in 2009, started living rurally, so just south of Carnup Road. So I also understand some of the challenges that the rural residents have. And then in 2010, I built my first house in Baldivis, and in 2016 built my second house in Baldivis, and I still have both of those properties today, so lucky me. I get to pay 2 sets of council rates to the City of Rockingham, so you know my interests are really going to be aligned with those of the ordinary ratepayer, because I'm up for a good almost $5,000 a year. So I'm a chartered accountant. I have started my career in Big Four accounting, where I had the opportunity to advise top-tier clients like your mining companies, Gina Rinehart's companies, Virgin Australia, your Woodsides, on really complex tax issues and payroll issues. So I really understand the importance of sound financial management, sustainable economic growth, and equitable distribution of funds, which is really important for the city. I'm running for council because I'm really passionate about the community and I want to give back. I've been attending meetings for a few years now, and I've passionately advocated for lower rate rises and fair and value for money spending of our rates. Yes, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Sounds like a lot of boxes ticked for a lot of people in the area. Could I ask that you have yourselves on mute if you're not intending to say anything? If you could. Technology permitting, of course. Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. Can Dr. Craig Buchanan, would you like to go next?
Thanks, Alistair. I'm Craig Buchanan. I'm 51, although I'm starting to look a little bit older than that. 51-year-old public servant, part-time academic at UWA. And I've been a councillor here in Rockingham, in the Rockingham and Safety Bay ward for the past 4 years. I'm standing very much for re-election on my record. And that's a record of listening to the community throughout my term and voting with the local people in mind. I think I've supported common sense policies, and I've always stressed the need to keep our spending in check. Now, I'm the first person to admit that numbers have not always been on my side in the last 4 years. We've had far too many votes, particularly when it comes to lower rates bills, that have been defeated 5 votes to 6. And That's one of the reasons that this election is so important for the Rockingham community this year, because we have a chance to re-elect those councillors who've been strong advocates for the community, and to back them up with new councillors who are willing to take a similar common sense and community-centred approach. What else can I tell you? I've been in Rockingham for about 10 years now, off the top of my head. Married to Claire, local school teacher. The kids have all flown the nest, so now we just pay for the cats, which is almost every bit as expensive. I'm not going to get into a fight with Kelly. We've got 3 Rockingham properties, so I have every bit of sympathy with the rates bill. None of us, thankfully, I think, around this table are quite at the Reese Whitby level yet. I think the last time we looked, it was 5 houses for Reese. But no, it is an issue, and I do understand, along with everybody else, the financial burdens. So, as I say, standing on a record of 4 years of reasonable success, and looking forward, I hope, if people will back me, for another 4 years of common sense approach.
Lovely. Thank you, Craig. Peter, go ahead, please. Tell us about yourself, your platform. What do we need to know about you?
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Alistair. And can I thank all the candidates actually for dialing in today. It's great to have so many of us here, as well as to Tris and the team at IPL for setting up today. I've been a long-term supporter of IPL over the last several years, and it's great that we've been able to put this together and get it off the launch pad, unlike we did last week. But yes, my name's Peter Hudson, and I am your local candidate for the Rockingham and Safety Bay Award, which is the biggest award within the city of Rockingham. A little bit about myself. I'm born and raised here in Rockingham. I was born in Waikiki, and I still live here. Went to school around here, grew up, and finished my university degree in law at UWA. Started my own business, all while living in Rockingham. Member of and on the board of numerous organisations and clubs all across the city of Rockingham and Kwinana as well, for that matter. Many people will remember me and my name from the last couple of years. So I ran for the federal seat of Brand in 2022 at last year's federal election. And then even more recently, I was a candidate for the Rockingham by-election when Mark McGowan resigned. So the reason I'm running for council, and my ward in particular, where I've grown up, is because I've been out on the ground and I've spoken to just about every single person in Rockingham and Safety Bay Ward over the course of the last 18 or so months. So I understand exactly what the people of Rockingham need. And the number 3 things that they're telling me that we need is action on cost of living, greater access to local health services, and increased presence of police to reduce crime. These are the 3 issues that affect all levels of government. And I'm someone who can work across all levels of government. And I think that even though the city of Rockingham is a beautiful place to work, live, raise a family, all those great things, we can do better. And local government has a key role to play. We are the closest part of government to our residents. And action on those 3 issues in particular, as well as a whole host of others, which I'm sure we'll get into today, is exactly why I'm passionate about standing up for our local community in the city of Rockingham. Thanks very much.
Lovely. Thank you, Peter. And who have we got left? Rebecca Privilege. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you, Alistair, and thank you very much for putting this on. I appreciate it. My name's Rebecca Privilege, and I'm a candidate in the Baldivis ward for these local government elections. I'm a business owner of 2 businesses and the co-founder of a not-for-profit serving veterans, first responders and their families. I've been a resident and a ratepayer of the City of Rockingham for over 23 years. And so the way our money is spent is extremely important to me. So my focus is on a number of areas. I want greater financial transparency and accountability in our council and in the city, and keeping rate increases to a minimum, perhaps even freezing them. If we're going to just bank it, why? There's no reason. The city is not a bank, and nor should we be. Working together with developers to ensure that we maintain our green canopy and preserve our red-tailed black cockatoos, which are endangered at this time. Provide greater opportunities for youth and keeping mentally healthy. That's incredibly important to me. And increasing public safety. So my focus will be on a number of areas. And one of them will be putting pressure on the CEO to reduce operating expenditure, known as OPEX, whilst improving services so we reduce the enormous rates burden on our ratepayers. And also directing the CEO to find savings in each of the departments within the city. There's always wastage, and wastage needs to be looked at. I do believe rates need to increase. I don't believe that rates need to increase every year, I should say, especially when we don't have the building materials or the labour to complete the projects. So that's why I'm running. I've attended many council meetings and committee meetings and asked questions and received answers. So what is happening within our city, and Baldivis being the fastest growing suburb in the city, all of this is extremely important to me, and we need to do what we can to move this city forward. So thank you.
Agreed. Wonderful. Well said. Okay, so some of you have already tackled this, and kudos to your professionalism is out of this world. But if we want to go just quickly back around and hone in, maybe on those of you who haven't already done it, 3 priorities that you're really going to focus on. Did anyone not think they didn't get a chance to say what those were? Kelly?
Maybe we could give Brett and Jason their opportunity to give their intro word.
Oh my goodness. Jason, yes, please. And you know what? Brett isn't even on my screen. Brett! You snuck in, mate. I didn't even know. Computers, I'm sorry. We've got a massive screen and it's not wide enough to fit all of you lovely people on it. Here we are,
Here's me
please.
looking after the competition.
Yeah, of that. Very sporting of you. Okay. Jason, please.
Hi guys, thanks to IPL for the opportunity, and thanks again, Pete, for reminding me we haven't had our shot yet. So a little bit about me. I wasn't born here. I was born in England, came here in 1988 and moved to Rockingham early 1988. I've been here for 30 plus years. I've been schooled here. I went to East Waikiki for my whole primary school. I bounced around a couple of high schools, but I've pretty much been schooled in the area. As far as working, I've only just gotten back to Rockingham working in the area. I've been traveling quite a lot for my work. I work as a panel beater, so chances are if you've been in a prang recently, there's about a 20% chance I've fixed your car. I've just bought my house back in 2021, so I'm only just feeling the pinch of rates. And as far as I'm concerned, the only reason I got interested in local government was because of the impact it has immediately towards the people who live in the area. Obviously, state and federal do have an impact, but local is where it's felt the most. So I feel it's where I can best help people out and get better reactions and better results for the people of Rockingham. Given that in mind, I do feel that the city as well as the councillors need to be better engaged with the public. I feel that people need to be more in tune with what council does, how it operates, and especially where all your rates are going. I'm also calling for financial transparency. Obviously, as Rebecca touched, there needs to be better transparency in how the city spends the money, how the CEO doles it out. I'm also calling for safer suburb roads. We've had a few tragic accidents on these roads recently. I've been at council meetings calling for suburb roads like My Street, Kaloom Street, as well as other main drags in the area to have slow aids or stop aids to slow people down in suburb areas and high built areas. More common sense approach towards how and what we do with ratepayer funds. Obviously, we don't want to be spending money on things like dredging and fruit for work when we can put that towards other things like dealing with the homelessness crisis, easing the burden on the cost of living for ratepayers. And yeah, that's pretty much what I stand for, and I'll do it whether I'm elected or not.
Outstanding. Okay, thank you very much. Brett, please tell us, Brett Garner, who you are and what you're about.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. It's really nice to be a part of this debate. My name is Brett Garner. I am a candidate for the ward of Rockingham Safety Bay in this 2023 local government election. I myself have lived in Rockingham since '99, but my family have lived here a lot long before me. My kids will actually be like fourth generation Rockingham, and I'm lucky enough to be able to call Rockingham home because it's such a beautiful area. And I mean, I swim and fish on these shores. I play in these parks. I've worked and renovated hundreds of homes around the area. I've sat in the emergency room here for endless hours through the night with my children. Like, I know Rockingham, and I suppose it was a few years ago I started wanting to give back to the community, and I started by doing just a few YouTube treasure hunts from home, from basically where I'm sitting now. I would post videos and get people out searching around Rockingham and making the most of our beautiful landscapes and trying to find a little bit of treasure while they're at it. While I was doing that, I came across IPL, and again, another opportunity presented itself for me to give back to the community. So I've been enjoying volunteering down at IPL now for just over a year, and it's giving back to the community is I found to be really rewarding. And through working at IPL, I've sort of become more aware of local government, and I realised it's an area where I probably can make more of a difference than just doing a bit of a treasure hunt here and there, you know. So I'm really looking forward to getting involved and being a part of Rockingham's bright future. So, yeah, thanks again for the opportunity. That's pretty much me. And I suppose as the debate goes on, we will say more about what I stand for.
Excellent. Okay, keeping something in reserve, keeping us on our toes. Excellent. Now, you just mentioned the ways in which you give back to the community. You'd like to focus on that. It's a personal focus of yours. I'd like to open it up and just go around, and if you could tell us all how you personally give back to the community, if it's a focus of yours, or if you do it in a roundabout way, or do you get involved on the ground as well? Rebecca?
Thank you. I was brought up in a volunteering household. That was what we knew. I didn't know any different. So all of my family have been volunteering since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. It's part of our value system. It's what we do. I've been working with domestic violence, mental health, homelessness, people that need a hand up, not a handout, for, since 2006 in this area, in these areas, and do a lot of fundraising, a lot of work that is, you'll never see a picture of me doing it, because that's not what it's about for me. I've been involved in the surf club, been involved in local community groups, apart from these other ones, and I'm often a drop-off point for food, for toys, clothes, anything that's needed. So I've always given back. It's the way I was brought up. It's all I know how to do, really.
Thank you, Rebecca. Jason, how do you get in touch with the community on the ground level?
Well, I don't get it out and do a lot of volunteering, if I'm being quite honest. The last time I did any sort of volunteering was volunteering to coach my son's Auskick team. But I mean,
I think you said that you sort of you feel like being part of the council was the way in which you hoped to achieve that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so far I've met a lot of lovely people just getting involved in council meetings. I've had a lot of public engagement since I started my candidacy. I've obviously been asking people online, you know, what are the problems facing your area? Is there anything that you think council could do better? I don't think volunteering as much is something that I can do freely. However, if anyone's willing to, you know, put their hand out and ask whether I can give them a helping hand, I'd be just as happy to say yes. It does sound a bit selfish, but as far as my time is concerned, I got to try and prioritize it because I've got a family, I've got a job to do, and I feel that with council, I think it's the best use of my time to help this community out.
Sure thing. Okay, that's great. Yeah, it's a matter of focus, efficiency, priorities. Understood. Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. Yeah, look, I mean, similar to Rebecca in that volunteering is sort of the name of my game. As I mentioned earlier, I was born and raised here, and to say that this community has given me everything that I have is an understatement. So that's a key part of why I've stood for Parliament and things in the past, is because I feel so strongly about our community and being able to give back to that as a representative of our community. So I suppose two volunteer major initiatives that I took on have been my two elections that I've run, one federal and one Rockingham by-election. It's all volunteer. It's all off our own back, and it's all because we believe in a certain set of values. But through that, I suppose it's been over the last 5 or so years where I've really come into volunteering and sitting on the boards of various organisations around Rockingham. One organisation that I continually love to come back to is IPL Radio itself. I've done a number of events and interviews and things like that with Tris and the team over the years as events and that have gone by. I've been involved. Other organisations like my local tin shack at the Rockingham RSL, I'm involved there as well. I sit on a number of governance and finance committees across Rockingham, and that comes as a result of my professional experience. But yeah, any time I've even done the Clean Up Australia initiatives and all things like that. The one that I'd really like to highlight is the work that I've done with a local community advocate by the name of Owen Farmer. Now, Owen has an inspirational story. It's actually his birthday today, hence the shout out. But he has organised the Rough It Rockingham programs around Rockingham, and now they're actually expanding down to Mandurah as well. And that's all about tackling the crisis that is homelessness in the city of Rockingham. It's an issue that I've got some serious insight into. I've spent a lot of time with my good friend Owen, volunteering and being at the Salvation Army on Wilmot Drive and all the rest of it like that, and being involved with those sort of events as well. So really a broad spectrum across the community. That's where I like to spend most of my time, is giving back through volunteering.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I understand, of course, that you receive nothing from us when we have interactions here at IPL. We don't offer you anything. But are any of those initiatives that you're connected to, do they offer you any remuneration?
No, they don't. But if they did, I would say no, because that's not the reason that I do it. I do it because I have a certain set of values of giving back to the community, and that idea of statesmanship, which is so often lost by councils or corporate bodies or whoever it may be these days. So no sense of remuneration is needed. It's not something I want. It's not something I'm jumping out for. In fact, if I think the question may even be posed later on today, would you still run for council if it was a voluntary position? Yes, I would, because it's actually something I believe in. I don't need a paycheck to justify getting on there and sitting around and doing not a lot. I want to do it because I have a real vision for Rockingham and I want to inspire change in my community. So there's no point in me asking for any remuneration through IPL or anywhere else like that. I'd prefer to go and find the money for you guys so that you guys can go and do more of the amazing work that you do.
No, that was a bit of a, covering us as well. We're not affiliated with any of you officially. Brett, we don't give him anything, nothing. Except our, gratitude and appreciation, and it's good. There is a win-win kind of aspect to interacting with our local businesses and politicians, and I suppose that might be a focus when you are all deciding where to allocate your focus and your time. As we know, time is limited for everybody, and I honestly don't know how. You seem to fit in everything that you've already highlighted. Craig, would you like to offer an answer to this question before we move on?
Sure. As well, look, one of the best things I've done on council has been my work, I think, with the community grants programs. I've been very fortunate to sit on that committee for pretty much all of my 4 years. And as you at IPL will know, that's a very valuable resource for the local community, be it the golf club, be it the radio station, be it the charities that are helping the homeless. There's an opportunity there for council to step up and to assist with the good work that's being done. And I'm very happy to have been heavily involved in that since I started. Look, the other thing I do from a volunteering point of view, and again, no remuneration on this one, is I am one of your local JPs. So I'm on call. It does sometimes feel like 24/7. The cops don't call me as often as they might. I'm not at the top of their list for search warrants for some reason. I don't know why. But look, you do get an awful lot of community people calling up and saying, "Look, can you meet with me? Can we sign paperwork? Can we witness this? Can you give me advice on how to get this paperwork through?" So that does take up a reasonable amount of time. But very happy to do that in the local community. I just think it's one more thing to add to my council role. So yeah, those are my two mains. I'm pretty active out in the community generally, but not so much in sporting clubs. I'm a little old and long in the tooth for that these days, I'm afraid. When we were talking about I can see some smiles. I think some of my fellow folk here were at the council meeting recently when I had to get someone to whisper to me about the bike and the pump and jump track. I'm going, what's a pump track?
It's a jam.
Well, yeah, it's been a lot of years since I had a BMX bike, but I did have one many moons ago back in the 80s. So look, as I say, fit in what I can around my council work, my JP work, and helping out where I can in the community.
Great. I mean, you may be well parted with a majority of Australians, it seems, who do a lot of unpaid hours in the work that they do. Right for it. Now, Jason, sort of indirectly may have accused you of not being present enough in the community as a councillor that's sitting currently. You're not visible enough. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, unfortunately, whilst I do my best, I have other priorities at the moment.
No, sorry. I was asking Craig if he agreed with your statement, Jason, that the councillors aren't.
Well, I
around.
mean, the problem with that is the city has these social media policies, which I consider to be gag orders. So my aim, if I were elected to council, would just be more coffee with councillor catch-ups, just give people a chance to approach councillors, give them an idea of what needs to be done in this community, and better engage with them more. I don't know how much more we can do as far as candidates and councillors when it comes to public engagement, but I still feel that if you want to get an idea on what's going on and how these policies are affecting ratepayers, giving them more opportunity to meet with councillors personally, I think would be a better bet for everyone.
Okay.
Alistair, I might come back to your original question if I could on that.
Yes.
Just to say that, yes, we need to be engaged. I think I do a pretty good job of it. I had a look when I first came in. I sat back for a few weeks to see where the gaps might be in engagement. And what I've taken to doing is 2 videos a month, which I push out across social media, and IPL are often very good enough to share them on your website. So I push out an email, a video just before our meetings that basically gives you a quick 5-minute summary of the agenda, so that you don't have to wade through half a tree worth of paperwork to find out what we're going to be talking about, and also which issues are likely to be the most discussed. Several of them we'll just go through through as a group when we, particularly in planning. So I highlight those issues for people, and then a week later I come back and I give a brief summary, sometimes a little more than 5 minutes, of what's actually happened at our meetings, so that those who weren't there or those who don't have the time to watch 2 hours worth of the full video feed can get a feel for what happened and what decisions were made. Yes, we have a social media policy. I don't actually find it all that difficult to work with. I think if you read it, if you're aware of the missteps that can be made, then you can certainly work around that policy. Now, I did stop those videos for a little while, year and a half ago when the mayor came in, because I felt, and I said to Deb, I said, this is really a role that I would love to see the mayor step up to. Give us the agenda, give us the summary afterwards. She was pretty good at that for a few months, but then pressure of work, I guess, those videos dropped off, and so I stepped back up into that space. And it's certainly something I'd continue to do if re-elected.
Probably a necessary initiative. Things progressing the way they are. Can we get a quick show of hands? Who is on TikTok? No.
Facebook Facebook
Okay.
is as far as I go.
Okay. So, Brett, I know that you've got a handle on social media. You know, doing your treasure hunt campaigns at the very least. You pump out a bit of content, I believe, in your own personal life. How important do you think it is to engage voters these days using new media?
Oh, well, yeah, definitely. It has to play a part. There's such a young demographic that their primary form of getting information, whether it's through news or the entertainment industry or whatever, is through these social media apps. So I definitely think that we need to encourage the youth to have more of a say in how their community develops. And maybe if we get them more involved in how their community develops, they might be less likely to vandalize it if they're more invested in it, you know. So I definitely think that councillors need to utilise social media as a tool. How far you go with that is up to you. Myself personally, I don't use TikTok, not a big fan, but definitely a Facebook presence. I think you at least need to have a platform where people can find you online. Whether it's like as basic as a website or, like I said, a Facebook page or something. You can do Instagram, you can do TikTok and all that if you like. But I think if you're at least sort of meeting a few minimum requirements, then at least you can get your message out there and hopefully connect with those younger demographics and get more people paying attention to the direction the community's heading.
Well, that would be good. That's a great goal to have. And I suppose differences. I mean, Jason, were you aware of Craig's summaries of meetings? I know you go to some of the meetings, but were you aware that this is something that he and the mayor did?
Yes. I've actually watched a couple of them, and I think that is a great platform for Craig to be promoting. I personally think a lot more councillors should be doing it.
Okay, so it's working, it's good. People are aware of it, maybe, but just more of it.
Yes, definitely.
All right, cool. Good. Now, Brett, you just mentioned graffiti. There has been an issue, which I think most of you will be aware of now, with graffiti appearing on the Warmborough Sound Ave. And so it's a hot button issue a bit. People are talking about it. What would be your strategy in dealing with the problem individually, and then I suppose also as a larger issue going forward, Kelly?
Yeah, I believe the graffiti that you're referring to is on the section of wall in Warmborough, down Warmborough Sound Ave, their main road, through the area in between the Aqua Jetty and Holcomb Road.
That's probably the one that is the area I'm talking about. I'd like to get Kelly's opinion though.
Yeah.
My opinion on the wall, the Great Wall of Warmborough.
Yes.
So, as far as I know, currently that issue is before the courts. So my understanding is that unfortunately we are unable to intervene in the situation until the court has handed down a decision. Obviously, I would like to see it go. Obviously, I would like to see the council just say, look, this issue has been going on for so long. Let's just demolish it. Unfortunately, there's a little issue of precedent to consider. If the city of Rockingham decides to go down that path, they are effectively saying it's okay for us to intervene in matters that have nothing to do with us. It is the residents' responsibility, unfortunately. So I would love to see it go. It's an eyesore. It's a hazard. But unfortunately, I think we're bound a little bit legally at the moment as to what the city can actually do. So hopefully it gets resolved in front of the court soon and some action is taken. Okay.
Rebecca, would you agree with this due process, let the wheels turn as they are, or do you have another strategy you would employ?
Good question. As Kelly has alluded to, the matter is before the courts, and we believe a resolution is forthcoming very soon. So it's not something that I would comment on further than that.
Fair enough. Would anyone else like to raise a hand and offer a solution? Yep, sure. We'll come to both of you then. Craig.
Look, Alistair, obviously, as the ladies have both said, this is before the courts. If I had my way, I'd take 3 sticks of dynamite and blow the bloody thing up. It's an eyesore, but we have to remember it is in the courts. And I think it's worth saying that it's not the city of Rockingham that took it to court. The city issued demolition orders, perhaps not as quickly as it could have. And I've got to own up. I was one of the people who, back in Lord, almost exactly 4 years ago, said, let's go gently with this and see if we can work with local residents. Because there's an interesting mix on Basslet Place, which is the road onto the back of which these walls sit, that they're not all privately owned. You know, there's different types of housing stock on that area. So look, we probably spent 6 months that we didn't need to, but I've got to put my hand up with the best intentions in the world. I voted for that 6-month delay to see if there was anything we could do. We then issued orders to demolish. It was then the residents who took that to court. So we really now are the respondent. We're not, this is not like other court cases that you hear about with the city where we are trying to get money out of people. This is people saying, no, we disagree with what the city's doing. We're going to take you to court and try and stop you.
Sure. So yeah,
we really have no choice but to respond, and we are very much in the hands of the courts.
Yeah, sometimes waiting to see what happens is the right course of action. You don't want to do a knee-jerk reaction because that could result in a waste of money, a waste of time, and backlash from residents, quite rightly, maybe. So,
the other thing to look at is the amount of wall along Warnborough Sound Avenue. So that this is one particular area that's got graffiti, but if you look at the number of homes, particularly on the other side of the road, where the old wooden fencing is buckled and coming away, in need of repair, in need of replacing, if we take an in precedent move with these 10 houses on Basslet Place, where do we then stand with the 150 houses along the length of, and I'm guesstimating there, but, you know, is the next call going to be for the city to deal with everybody's walls on private property? Because if you believe that, then you believe in a heck of a higher rates bill than I do.
Yeah, fair enough. Brett, yes. Sorry, I've been looking for your digital hands, and because I can't see
you're
it.
right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly add that I understand this matter is held up in the courts at the moment, and it needs to go through its due process. But in the meantime, it still provides a sort of health and safety risks to the community with kids getting in behind the temporary fence. To graffiti and stuff like that. So I wonder if maybe the council would be able to allocate one of their camera pods that are on trailers that they have set up. I know I've got one set up down near the local IGA at the foreshore. I've seen another one just off Malibu Road. And maybe this would hopefully prevent teens and youths from going in behind this temporary fence and risking their own health and safety to graffiti the wall, which obviously is making it look worse, but if we can prevent people from going behind that temporary fence while this matter is processed through the courts, I think it would be in the city's best interest.
Excellent. All right. Jason, Peter, I will come to you in just 1 second, but if Craig, you could tell us in 10 seconds or less, would that be possible?
I did ask, I might take 20 seconds, but because I did ask if we could put something more substantial up to block access. And the fear was that we then wouldn't be able to see what's going on behind the temporary fencing. So the final decision was that an ability to see through it was a deterrent in one sense. Look, I'd certainly back the possibility of moving some of those portable cameras. I'm not sure they're quite tall units, and we might then have an issue with looking into people's backyards, but it's certainly worth it.
Okay, neat. Okay, so Peter, graffiti solutions?
Yeah, look, while it's before the courts, I don't think it's overly helpful for prospective council candidates to be throwing hypothetical solutions at it. I think it does just need to go through the courts, as pretty much everyone else has said. Interesting note brought up by Brett there. If there were no houses and private residents around, then I would say, sure, put as many CCTV cameras on it as you like. But I can resonate with the residents there. If they're already angry enough with the city to be taking us to court, they might not be overly impressed if we decided to stick a large camera pod that could potentially be looking into their backyard. So that's my initial concern on the private property front with that. But look, I totally agree with everyone else that's spoken. It's been there for far too long. It's totally an eyesore. Anyone that drives past it, as Kelly said, the Great Wall of Woomera. It's an icon for all of the wrong reasons, and I'm looking forward to it being dealt with in the very short-term future.
Sure. And you believe that there's nothing the council can do in the meantime, just as long as it's in the courts. There's nothing to add to that process.
I won't be commenting while it's before the courts. I think that's not helping the due process.
Yep, cool, no problem. Okay, Jason, do you have any other ideas?
My concern is who's footing the bill for all this. Essentially, this affects two sets of people. Yeah, who's paying the bill for all the court fees?
Right.
I mean, because if this ends up bleeding down to the ratepayers, this is just another waste of ratepayers' money on something that I feel could have been resolved with a bit of sense and a bit of common sense. Now, whenever you're dealing with insurances for down fences, when it's a shared fence with another property owner, the idea is you talk to your neighbour, you get your insurances sorted out, and they end up paying half the cost. Why hasn't that been considered? That the city consider maybe covering half the cost of the replacement of the wall, and then asking the owners to cover the other half.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's a big expense. Don't get me wrong, but what has that ever been considered?
Okay. Have you yourself put the notion forward at a council meeting or something like that?
No, unfortunately, this is just this isn't something I have put forward to council yet. If I can, next council session I will.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just a suggestion. I know it's before the court. I know we're going to wait for it. But this is sort of thing that worries me about decisions like this, is that everybody gets too angry over this subject and they don't calm down and think things through. My question is, has this been considered? It's just everybody pays half done.
Jason, I can probably give you a little bit of clarity on that. We didn't, my recollection, consider quite the split that you're talking about, but we did consider whether the city could project manage on behalf of residents. So that would have lifted a reasonable chunk of the cost had that been acceptable. We couldn't get an agreement, mate. Those are not just 10 individual people living in individual houses. There's community housing stock. There are a couple of private landlords who, if recollection serves, live over east and so are more difficult to get a hold of. And there are those who own their own homes. There are bits of the wall that are still in better condition than other bits of the wall. And so the owners of those bits are saying, well, am I in the same boat as my neighbors? So but the short answer to your question is yes, we did consider trying to alleviate where we could. That's that 6-month period I was talking about where we went softly. It didn't work. We basically got our bum bitten as a result of it. And so now I think we have no choice but to continue with the demolition.
Okay, so yes, mistakes are made. Sometimes you can't make all the right decisions all the time, especially when you're working in a team. And I suppose the important thing there is to own up to it, as I think you say you quite readily do, Craig, when you can. I'd like to move on, if we can, to from one wall to many walls, the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis. What effects have you seen it's had on the community? And again, what would be your approach, whether it's idealistic or practical? What would you like to see happen to help people out here? Can I start with Rebecca?
Thank you. What we're seeing, generally speaking, is a greater calling out for food packages, for basic essentials included in those packages, people being forced out or squeezed out of their rental accommodation and unable to go into another rental accommodation at that same rate if they can get it, because the rental accommodation the stock is extremely tight at the moment. So we're seeing a lot of, to put it as an understatement, and we're seeing a lot of people reaching out a lot more than we've seen before, which is very concerning and very disturbing. We're seeing a lot of people in their cars, in campgrounds. I'd love to see a caravan park that has a combination of long-term stay, short-term stay, that may help alleviate some of this with ablution blocks and bring in tourism as well. So a nice combination that would have to be worked very, very delicately and very well. So that's what I would like to see. And yeah, we're definitely seeing a huge squeeze, and it's not pretty.
No, it's quite concerning, which is why we need people with innovative ideas and an action-oriented attitude. Kelly, what about yourself? What's your concern and what would you do about it?
From a local government perspective, I mean, from the start, how about we stop increasing rates to the extent that they're being increased when there's absolutely no reason to? So that's one way that the local government and the council can directly help ratepayers ease the cost of living burden. Is we absolutely did not need a 3.9% increase this year. Craig fought for the lower increase. And one of the quotes from Councillor Cottam that really hit home to me when debating whether $14 was material to a ratepayer is that she said that $14 is 2 litres of milk and 2 loaves of bread. So that can mean a lot to someone that's really counting every penny. And so some of the feedback I've seen online as well with the Fruitgate saga, a lot of people are saying, I can't afford fruit. Why should I be paying for fruit for council employees? So for a start, let's look at wastage. There's wastage in any organisation. We need to have the right people in the job that can put pressure on the CEO to identify that wastage and mitigate it, so that going forward, we don't have these rate increases. My rates didn't go up 3.9%. They went up almost 11% due to the GRV revaluation. So for us, that's what we can look at as a start, is cutting out the wastage. We look at the Chronicle, $170,000 a year. Bench Street dredging, $1 million a year. Fruit at Work, $30,000 a year. And I have to say I'm tired of the argument of people saying, oh, it's only 50 cents per ratepayer per year. It's only this per ratepayer per year. It all adds up. So how many times are we going to get that argument? Because you need to consider everything in aggregate. So Bent Street dredging costing every single ratepayer in the entire city of Rockingham, whether you live in a property in Baldivis and use that jetty or not, costs everyone $20 a year. That's material for some people, and I don't think it's fair for some councillors to say it's immaterial, because it can mean a lot.
Yeah, certainly. Are you aware of what is the reason for the dredging in your estimation? Is it an environmental thing? Is it necessary at all? Is it aesthetic? Why do they do it?
So the jetty can be usable because the sand is building up in the channel there. So at the moment, it's probably unusable. So they wouldn't be able to get their boats out because of the sediment built up. So it costs roughly $500,000 to get the sand out the water.
Yep.
And then another $500,000 for to haul it over to the tip. Right.
So your opinion is that it only benefits people who have boats?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, this dredging only impacts 2 out of the 14 jetties that we have in the city of Rockingham. So we have other usable jetties that don't need dredging or that require dredging less frequently. So we all agree that this is not sustainable going forward. So if we look at all of the costs the city is going to be facing over the next decade or so, do a net present value of those calculations back to today, say for argument's sake, it's going to cost us $10 million over 10 years. I would rather see that money invested in additional infrastructure to keep A, the businesses that are on Bent Street happy, and B, the boat users that really require those jetties to have some sort of other infrastructure. I'd rather invest that money rather than tampering with Mother Nature. Mother Nature wants to
Sand.
do what it wants to
You
do.
want sand?
Yes. So,
Okay. So abandoned ship, you say?
yes.
Great. Okay, fair enough. Brett, you are a sort of man of the sea, I think. Do you have any other insight into the necessity of this practice, or whether it's a waste of money?
Well, yeah, the dredging is at Bent Street Boat Ramp. It's also the pond, which is a world famous kite surfing location created by this sand being washed in. To be honest, it seems like a pointless exercise. I myself would prefer to use Carlisle ramp. It's a sand ramp. It doesn't have the concrete, but it's on the other side of the island anyway. Anybody that's going in at Bent Street sort of has to navigate those shallow waters around Dunga Island before you can really get to deeper water anyway. And if you go out from Carlisle Street Boat Ramp, you end up with a much more direct line just around Penguin Island to hit open water. So honestly, I wouldn't miss Bent Street Boat Ramp if it's gone, but as a candidate for council, I am obviously more interested in what the residents have to say and being their voice in council based on that.
Fair enough. Would anyone else like to contribute? Craig.
Thanks, Brett, for bringing up the pond. I think it's worth saying, and I think I'm right in saying this is the first year we've had back-to-back years of dredging. So in previous years, it's been every second year we've had to go in. Now there's been a lot more sand this year. 4 or 5 of us in the last council meeting did ask that this be taken as a special subject out of the CEO's hands so that we could get a decent debate around the whole question, even if it meant a special meeting. We weren't fortunate enough to carry all of our colleagues with us on that one. My worry is that it's fine to say we'll stop dredging the boat ramp, but are we going to stop dredging the pond? And if we stop dredging the pond, are we going to end up with a very large pool of stagnant water? There are pipes coming out of there. There are water court pipes down in that area that feed in and obviously have to then feed out again. So if the pond closes, we've got an issue. It's not as clear cut as just saying that, you know, we can save $1 million here every year. But I agree wholeheartedly with Kelly. It's not sustainable. Several of the candidates have mentioned rates as a question of how we can ease the cost of living for people. And I think it's worth saying that rates in Rockingham is a two-sided coin. So there is the residential rates issue that local residents quite rightly complain about. And look, I've always taken the view that with a 10 million surplus this past year, a 5 million surplus the year before that, we shouldn't be digging into people's pockets when we patently don't need it. You know, we're over collecting, in my view, and that needs to stop. The flip side of the coin, though, is industrial rates, is business rates. And what the council is doing and has been trying to do for some time, and I think we're making headway, particularly out in East Baldivis, is to convince the state government that we need light industry down here in Rockingham. Because one of the ways you make a suburb livable is to allow people to work and live in this area. So rather than being a commuter suburb, we need council to be pushing all that it can. We have some powers in terms of zoning, but ultimate power rests with the state government. So there is an awful lot of advocacy to be done in this area to try and get more jobs into Rockingham.
Okay, we've shifted subjects a little bit.
Well, we started on cost of living, Alistair,
yes,
which is what I was kind of trying to come back to. Because what that then lets you do is it lets the city rate those business properties in a different way to the way it rates its residential. You look at Kwinana, you ask yourself why we only see a rate rise in Kwinana every 3 years compared to a rate rise every year with us. And the answer is they've got Henderson. You know, they've got that big industrial strip that can take a lot of a load off the local residents. We need a council that's pushing for something along those lines. We have been in recent years, and it's certainly something I'd consider continuing to do because I do think it eases cost of living in the long run.
Okay, fair enough. Good. We will continue the circle addressing the question of cost of living. Rebecca, have you had a chance to speak on this subject yet? You have? Yes? Sorry, who have we missed? Jason?
Yeah, I'll say a word if that's all
Sorry.
right. I did just want to touch base on the pond issue, though, and the Bent Street being that's the ward that I'm representing. And then I'll talk about the cost of living. So the pond is, and I can understand why the candidates for Baldivis don't feel as strongly, but I'm someone who's grown up, 5 minutes living from Ben Street, so I've got a very keen insight into this. In fact, I was actually just fishing this morning before we jumped onto this meeting, so I am a very keen wreck fisher out of all the jetties that we have here in Rockingham. Look, I can say I don't think it's an effective use of our time to just say abandon ship and just drop Ben Street altogether. The amount of infrastructure and money that we've put into it over the years, I don't think it serves us well to just say we're going to walk away from it. Particularly, Brett and Craig both mentioned the pond. I do a bit of kite surfing myself. I understand that the world-class pond that we have here in Rockingham brings in far more than $500,000 a year to the local economy just by being active. So by saying, oh, we're going to forget it and just let the sand build up, are we also going to kill off the local industry and the local businesses that rely on this part of tourism in the city of Rockingham? That being said, I totally understand it is not a sustainable solution to dredge every year, especially at a cost of $1 million a year. No one is happy about that, especially the wreck fishers, especially coming up to crayfish season. I totally understand that. But I can say that the local people don't want us to just walk away and just forget about the infrastructure we've got there. Brett also mentioned about Carlisle ramp there. Yes, that's a sand ramp, but that's not suitable for every boat. And frankly, in the city of Rockingham, where our slogan is where the coast comes to life, why shouldn't recreational fishers expect the best marine infrastructure that we have in the South Metro region? We should be able to have jetties that work, and we should be able to have channels that are deep enough and don't fill up with sand every year. So it's a very complex question, but one that I do agree we do need a sustainable solution on. To pivot into cost of living, I'm someone who understands a lot about this issue. I've door-knocked everyone in Rockingham and Safety Bay over the course of the last 2 years. And I can tell you in that time, the cost of living crisis has got worse. There are 3 key issues in the cost of living area which I've identified. The first is rising costs, and that includes your rates. Second is the housing supply. And third is what contributes to the massive issue that we have in homelessness. Obviously, everyone, I'm sure, in this meeting is in favour of lower rate rises. We would love lower rate rises, especially when we can't articulate where extra money is going. So I can definitely agree with that, but obviously the cost of living is affected by all levels of government, right? There's interest rates from Canberra. There's state government rebates and red tape against small businesses. There's local government fees, charges, rates, things like this. People are definitely feeling the pinch on that, and it goes a lot to housing, which is where people have issues paying their rent, paying their mortgage. I was door knocking just recently through this campaign and through the Rockingham by-election, and I've been speaking to families who are actually telling me I have to choose between putting food on the table for my children and paying the electricity bill. Think of it. That is what we've come to with this cost of living crisis. And every government would love to turn away and just say we've got no solutions. People just need to do what they can and get by. But frankly, it's not good enough. And people are feeling the pinch when it comes to their housing supply. And that's Craig mentioned advocacy with the state government earlier. Yes, we need people who can work intergovernmental. We need to have stakeholders in the state and the federal government, people who know how to put pressure on ministers to get land released for building of houses. Because you know what happens if we don't? And Rebecca touched on this earlier. We get people living in their cars. I go for a run every morning along the Safety Bay Beach, and the amount of people living in their cars with full families, children sleeping in the boot of their car, has skyrocketed in the last 2 years. These are people who aren't reported as being homeless. And I know, because I'm around there at the Salvation Army volunteering with the guys, I know that these people are really struggling. Rebecca mentioned food packages are through the roof. I work with organisations like Coastal District Care as well, and that they are just absolutely swamped with demand. So about getting the cost of living, the housing crisis, and actually addressing homelessness, these are the massive issues that we are seeing in Rockingham, and that's why we need people who are actually going to stand up, face the governments that are not always friendly to Rockingham, and actually get money and get things out of them and advocate for our people. That's exactly what we need.
Okie dokie. And just a final opinion on cost of living. I believe Jason's the only one that hasn't spoken on this yet. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's all well and good to say that you've spoken to people about the cost of living, but for a candidate to understand it, I feel it's better if you've lived it. I've had time in my life where I've lived paycheck to paycheck, where I've had to decide which bill's going to get paid, which bill takes priority over the next. I'm lucky enough now I don't have that position anymore. It's starting to come back, But as far as the cost of living is concerned, we do need better advocacy towards state and federal governments about cost of living relief. I do believe that as a council, we can do better in an attempt to drop down rates. I do feel that there is some fat that needs to be trimmed. As far as Bent Street's concerned, again, that is a very difficult topic. As Pete touched on, the windsurfing community does use it because it's a very flat area that's perfect for windsurfing use. So obviously that's going to be a bit of a difficult circuit to navigate. But I feel that with an infrastructure boost there on that front, we might be able to look at a better sustainable decision along that ramp. But at $1 million just to dig out sand and track it to the tip, I do feel there needs to be a better solution. The problem is not a lot of people have been talking about that better solution. It's easier to say that I've got a solution, but at the end of the day, we can't keep dredging an area that's just going to keep getting filled. We need to figure out why it's getting filled. And if there's a way that we can stop that in the future, if we want to keep using this boat ramp, or we need to find a more sustainable solution to deal with the area so that we're not spending $1 million on removing sand and taking it to the tip or dumping it somewhere else.
Okay, this brings up a question that I noticed that we all have opinions on economic policy, environmental problems, and it really depends on where we choose to get our information from these days. When you're making decisions as a councillor, how much would you rely on your own knowledge as opposed to, say, consulting an expert in the field? Is it worth, in your opinion, the cost to the ratepayers of consulting people on big decisions like environmental impacts of dredging and lowering rate rises and freezing things? Let me say, who can start with this, please? Peter?
Yeah, okay, I can tackle it. Look, insofar as an issue like the dredging and things like that go, ratepayers already sort of pay for these services. We've got staff within the city of Rockingham who are contracted to conduct studies and things like that. It's part of what the city of Rockingham does is they condition scope for projects. They commission work to be done all over the city. This is a regular occurrence. In the question of talking about would we rely on the knowledge of consultants versus our own knowledge, I think there's a balance to be made there. For example, hypothetically, if I was lucky enough to be elected to council, I would definitely take on board the advice of departments and relevant authorities on particular matters. Obviously, I would contrast that against my own. I've got a business mind. I'm a small business owner, as many of you know. I understand what it takes to make business and government work together. That's what I've been doing for all of my adult life. But at the same time, not contrasting between my knowledge and the knowledge of, say, the city of Rockingham, we also have to weigh up the wishes of the community. What do the community want? Because ultimately, what is a councillor but a representative of our ward? So, there is a balance to be made there. So even if the department says one thing about dredging, but if the community had a very strong feeling in another direction, then we would have to represent that to council. That we would not be an accountable body to the people if we weren't representing the views of our community. So there is a balance to be struck there, but it's like anything. It depends on the issue. You have to take on board all of the independent knowledge, be it yourself or others, and then we make up and weigh a decision. Obviously, in council, that comes down to a team decision unless authority has been delegated to the CEO. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we will constantly have to navigate, and it's something we have for many years, and I don't expect the system to change from the status quo.
All right, fair enough. Kelly?
Just a quick caveat, this is a really bad question for me just because I'm ex-PwC, and as you may or may not know, there is a huge debacle going on with the use of consultants in government agencies.
PwC being? What is
with the amount that governments have been spending on consultants and some tax opportunities that may have been communicated to businesses to try and alleviate some tax burden. But notwithstanding that, I did leave PwC before the scandal happened, and it was predominantly in the eastern states firm, not Perth. But my view on consultants is that similar to Peter, to have a balanced approach. Yes, the city does have their own experts in-house. I do have some concerns around conflicts of interest or, having a study done with the intent of having it come out a certain way. I do really value having independent consultants come in and do reports. I also think we have a lot of really smart and switched on people in our community. We have ex-marine biologists, we have ex-nuclear consultants, ex-chemical engineers, and I think a lot of their opinions sometimes get brushed off or put to the side. I think we should be liaising with those people in the community that may have retired from their profession and now are looking at some of these issues, such as the waste to energy plant and the potential longevity of constantly dredging, and get them involved. If they want to be involved, let's get them involved. So yeah, I think like Peter said, there's a balance to be struck between using the experts in-house and also contracting out, so we get that truly independent view.
Sure, and seeing the community as a resource rather than a self-interested party.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Brett, would you like to offer something on this?
Yeah, sure. Not really much more than what Peter and Kelly have already mentioned. I don't really know what more there is to add to that, but yeah, definitely relying on some of the expert that already exists in our community, independent evaluations that have no bias and will just get straight down to the facts of what it is and don't really have any investment in the outcome either way. I think
Would you relinquish the decision? Would you relinquish the decision rather than have it be up to potentially biased, self-interested parties on the council? Outsource it like they do the rate rises to the RBA. It's no longer a government decision because it was seen as potentially swayed by what the people want rather than what's good for the country.
Yeah, well, I think that comes down to sort of the definition between state, federal politics and local government, So I think on some community issues, then we would just rely on expertise and do it in-house, hopefully have some independent evaluation done. But on some of the larger issues like the waste to energy treatment, obviously I believe we'd have to involve state government to really see any impact done with that situation. But yeah, I think Peter and Kelly pretty much covered everything that needs to be said on the topic.
Fair enough. I'll open it up then. Rebecca, Craig, Jason, would any of you like to? Sure, Craig.
Look, just to say that consulting it's another one of these two-sided coins. Yes, we have consultants who come in, but we also consult as a city very broadly with the local community, with ordinary members. I've said any number of times, I'll always vote in favor of putting something out for public consultation, whether I agree with it or not, because I want to get that feedback from the community. So that is an important aspect of consulting. It's one that I think we do reasonably well. We may not be perfect in it. Sometimes you discover that we've perhaps had too small a catchment for a consultation, or we haven't had as much time as we might have liked. But generally, that ability to go out to the community themselves is a very positive aspect of consulting, and certainly one that I'd want to see continue.
Does it also attract a cost to consult, well, a wide catchment in the community?
It does, and I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's certainly not a major cost in the sense that, you know, if you're looking at, let's say Bent Street, you want to look at the main streets around there, plus throw it open online to the boating community, the fishing community, that sort of thing. We did a very large public consultation exercise last year, oddly enough, with external consultants running it, that managed to go out to far more local residents than we've ever had feedback from before on how on how happy they are with the way that the community is being represented. And look, I think that's the bottom line. We can't abdicate everything to consultants. You know, we can't put a phone on an app on everybody's phone that says, you know, tick here how you want it, because we are elected to represent. And that's what this election is about. It's about how happy are you with the representatives you've got? Who do you want to represent you for the next 4 years? And then you will hold those people accountable for what they've done at the end of their term.
Great. Rebecca, whose voice did you listen to more readily? Those of the constituents or those who have expertise?
Our job as councillors, if as a councillor, your job is to represent the residents. So at the end of the day, if residents say, happy to spend $1 million a year dredging, then we spend $1 million a year dredging. It's up to the residents. It's not up to us. And consulting is a double-edged sword, as has been alluded to. I've consulted to private enterprise, and as Kelly said, there is some bias there, and you need to be aware of that. But at the end of the day, it's about the residents. What do the residents want? We have some amazing knowledge, as Kelly has alluded to, in our community and in our residents. And as Craig has said, we put things out for public consultation. That's the opportunity to come back and have your say. That's what it's there for.
Jason, sorry.
Bottom line is, at the end of the day, if the residents want to spend $1 million a year dredging, we spend $1 million a year dredging.
Absolutely. Okay, Jason, do you agree?
I'm always curious as to how consultation with experts goes, and as far as that's concerned, I've always got that paranoia that, you know, you could pay to get your way. Now, speaking on my panel beating experience, whenever I'm having to work on a car, there are some points where I will have to consult what's called a repair method. And that is expert advice from the manufacturers as to how to remove a panel. Sometimes they don't always get it right. Sometimes they hit the nail on the head. The other thing that you've got to consider is as Rebecca's now nailed it, we are representatives of the people. So, and this is why I've been pushing throughout my election campaign for better public engagement, because at the end of the day, it doesn't affect the consultants, it doesn't affect the experts that you pay for, it affects the residents. And the residents, I feel, are the go-to point for real life impact. It's always good to have that expert opinion there to help, I suppose, base your decision on. But at the end of the day, the real impact goes to the residents. And if there are residents there that are experts in the field, I would be more inclined to use them, or even if they know someone outside of the area, to use them, because I feel they have a less biased, I've lost the word now. They seem to be more impartial towards the decision than a paid consultant, because you're obviously paying them to get a result. And if you get the result that favors the city the most, it's going to be more favorable to everyone but the residents. So whilst I
seem to have lost you. Right, so there's potential for bias in that approach. And I suppose he's touching on the issue of affiliations. I'd like to know if any of you will let us know if you are affiliated with any political or other organizations that you'd like to put on the table before people vote for you. Can I start with Peter?
Yep, no worries, mate. Yeah, look, everyone should be pretty well aware by now, but I'm a member of the Liberal Party. Have been for many years since I was a young person. My family hasn't always been that way inclined, but I believe in a certain set of values that drew me towards that party. I don't think it's perfect in any sense of the word, but I do think that they can form a credible alternative government, and they're a party that I've been proud to stand behind, and I'm proud to enjoy the support of the members and the leaders within that party.
Okay, and any organisations outside of the political sphere?
Only community organisations, all that you'd all be aware of, ones that I volunteer with mainly. I don't have any other politically leaning organisations on my checkbook.
Okay, all right then, moving on. Kelly.
So I am absolutely apolitical. So I have no present or past affiliation or membership with any political party, be it minor or major. I have no affiliation with any company that would tender to the City of Rockingham. So I don't work, for example, in a construction company that could potentially seek to gain from the City of Rockingham. The only affiliation that I have is I'm a member of the Country Women's Association, which from time to time does receive some community grants from the City of Rockingham. That would obviously be disclosed as an interest. I think in terms of the issue of whether politics should stay out of council, broadly, yes, I do. And that's just because I feel that we need independent candidates that if there is any advocacy work, for example, that they would be comfortable going to either party, be it Liberal or Labor, whoever's in at the time. And also, I just feel that independent candidates, they run on their own merit and values and not the merit and values of the party that they're associated with. I really do feel that Rockingham deserves candidates that are truly independent, that are acting in the true best interests of the community, not for their own ambition to further a state or federal career. If that happens organically in future, that's fine. But I would really like to see for Baldivis someone elected that's going to act on their own merit and values.
Excellent, and obviously transparency in disclosing any of those things going forward. Brett?
No affiliations. Not really connected to anyone in particular, running a completely independent campaign fueled purely by my passion to sort of give back to the community. Obviously, that was a little problem with my camera stand there.
Yep.
Obviously, I am associated with IPL Radio, but that's purely just me volunteering down there. I don't have any affiliations that are going to benefit from me being a part or not a part of council in any way. So,
Okay, easy peasy. Rebecca.
Thank you. I don't have any political affiliations or associations or memberships. So I'm free to not pay a piper. I'm free to vote according to my values and to my conscience. And as Kelly has said, I'm the same. I'm not associated with any company that tenders to the City of Rockingham. And I'm not a member of RKCC or Mangles Bay Fishing Club.
Excellent.
So completely political.
Okay. Craig, sorry.
You've left the best till last on this one because as many people know already, I suspect, I work for a bloke by the name of Dr. Brian Walker, who is the leader of the Legalised Cannabis Party. I'm Brian's research officer. I'm going to put my hand up. I'm also a regular medicinal cannabis user. I'm a cancer patient. And I've found it's one of the few things that gets me back onto an ability to live my life normally through that perfectly legal and perfectly prescribed substance. The reason I spend as much time at work as I do supporting Brian's good work in that area is that I don't feel medicinal cannabis is as acceptable and as affordable as it could be. So I'm doing what I can to get that down. I don't think that has any real bearing on my role on council. I can assure you, I take my medicinal cannabis before bed, not before council meetings. Though now that you mention it, it might be an interesting way to see your way through some council meetings, I've got to say.
Well, it could open people's minds to other solutions, perhaps.
Look, I think for that we might have to put certain councillors on mushrooms, Alistair. But look, as I say, I don't think it makes any, it has any impact on my role.
It's not a farm. It's not a distributor.
No. I'm not growing. There are no free samples. Look, I don't think it impacts my council work. That's up for the ratepayers to decide, though. They can certainly look back at the last 4 years and make a judgment there. Similarly to others, I'm not a member of our KCC. The Mangles Bay Fishing Club, I think I'm still persona non grata after the mayor's election 2 years ago, where they all said I was a terrible man. So no, I have no group affiliations, and I'm not based with any company that would be tendering either. So excellent. I reckon for all my politics, I'm about as independent as you're going to get.
Okie dokie. I would like to pivot. It's a loose tangent, but you mentioned green, and earlier Rebecca talked about one of her platforms being maintaining, at least, if not extending, the green canopy that we have here, or the green corridors. I think they're also known as. Could be something different. I'd like some clarity on that, and then I'd like a quick opinion on perhaps your preference for environmental concerns over industrial ones and residential ones before we move on to a quick wrap up and finish.
Hey guys, so sorry, I've just come back. I've been having some issues. Sorry.
No, good to have you back. Did you hear that question?
That was political affiliations, correct?
Go for it. Yes.
Yes. So I'm completely independent. I've got no political affiliations. I've got no considerations for anyone such as the RKCC or the Mangles Bay Fish Club. The only thing I can ever claim to have some bias towards is the local Rockingham Rams Football Club, because they are a club close to my heart at the moment. That and yeah, I'm there's nothing that I'm hiding.
Great. On that, can I do a quick yes or no, going around the room, just to clear it out? Who is and who is not a member of the KCC? Craig? No. No. Rebecca?
No.
No. Brett?
What does the RKCC stand for?
No.
That answers
Rockingham Kwinana Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Great. Peter?
No.
Okay. Kelly?
A resounding no.
Excellent. Okay, good. Got that sorted out then. So, Rebecca, if I may, you're concerned about maintaining the green canopy. I'd like to get people's opinion on whether they are aware and or concerned about the same thing. What do you think about Craig? I think it was Craig mentioned enhancing Rockingham's industrial capabilities.
I can see where Craig is coming from, and I don't disagree with him. It's another way to lessen the burden on the residential ratepayer and increase and provide another income stream into the city, which we need. We also have a balance that needs to be maintained or attained between development and our green canopy and the red-tailed black cockatoos, who are critically endangered. We can't take out their nesting hollow logs and replace them with artificial ones. The cockatoos don't use them. It's a complete waste of time, waste of money. There is no reason why, in my opinion, that development and our green canopy can't work together.
Okie dokie, good. Do you feel that balance is being maintained? You would like to see it sway further? Okay, good. Brett?
Sizes are way too small.
Okie dokie. I wonder if there was a consultant employed about the artificial hollow logs. We'll find that out later. Brett?
Yes.
So your view on whether you would support
versus greenery.
Yes.
Well, I think there's so much natural beauty in Rockingham and species that we need to protect. I mean, every one of these islands has got a different animal, from Penguin Island to Seal Island to the Tamars on Garden Island to Carnac Island and then obviously all the natural beauty that's on the mainland. Like, that is an essential part of what makes Rockingham Rockingham. So I think we need to protect that at all costs. But as far as bringing more jobs and stuff, if we can do that through industry and maintain a balance between looking after nature and also creating a bit more industry, a bit more income, and potentially relieving some pressure on ratepayers, then of course I'd be all for that, but obviously not at the expense of Rockingham's natural beauty.
Okay, great. Jason?
As a guy who's got some experience in this, there is not a great deal of industries, especially around my area of automotive. I do feel that there needs to be a little bit more industry to stop what's called the commute based community. Obviously, there are a lot of people who have to commute more than 20 minutes away from their home to get to work, and that's something I would like to aim for, but at the expense of green canopies like the black cockatoos. No. I obviously want more protection for endangered species like the black cockatoo. I've always had a thing for cockatoos. I've always had a thing for the penguins. They are a great representative for our city, but as far as the balance is concerned, I'd have to leave that up to the current council of the day.
Okay, fair enough. Peter, your opinion?
Yeah, look, broadly agree with everything that the others have said there. I would like to sort of plug a bit of my experience in this space, though. It's not so much about the cockatoos, but Jason just mentioned the penguins there. So it was a really pivotal time last year during my federal campaign, in which the decisions made around Penguin Island were actually going on. And there was a fair bit to do with the state government at that point in time. And I along with another person on council and a couple of community stakeholders, we mounted a really strong campaign against the local members' decisions, both federal and state, for the way in which they effectively chose to go about the development on Penguin Island, which would basically eradicate the penguin population insofar as it's already on decline. So I've got a strong history in actually protecting not only the actual environmental and the animals' lives themselves, but also the tourism and industry and businesses that fuel the economy through those sort of activities. So definitely something I'm strong to support, and obviously yes, we need to reach that balance between what we've got such a beautiful natural strip in this area.
Okay, we seem to be having a few troubles with your audio there anyway, but are you finished with that? Yep, okay, great. And Kelly.
So as a advocate for Baldivis, I have to echo everything that Rebecca said, that we need to be more proactive instead of reactive when it comes to developments in Baldivis. It's such a fast growing area. The black cockatoo and the kangaroos are my biggest concern. The black cockatoos, what happens in Baldivis is we have development here, development here, and so their canopy is not extended. So when they're flying from one area to another and they're crossing over that development, they're getting picked off by eagles. So we need to ensure that canopy is extended. And I would also love to see some actual protected areas. Notwithstanding that, understand the need to have a light infrastructure area in Baldivis, and I am supportive of that, but proper checks and balances need to be in place to ensure that the flora and fauna comes first before profits.
Okay, lovely. Excellent. And Craig, did you
just to say, Alistair, there's something very practical we can do, and we were talking about it just the other week. I can't recall if it was a council meeting or an engagement session, but the ability to insist that developers have larger verges worked in and larger median strips worked in so that we can put more trees throughout our community. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but if you fly in, I've always found flying into Perth is a fascinating thing. If you fly in at night, we look like such a massive city with all the lights. If you fly in during the day, you can barely see us. You know, you come in because of that beautiful green canopy that we've got through so many of our suburbs. So look, we do need that. We do, as Kelly said, need areas of special interest to be protected. I sat on the ministerial working group for Point Perrin and then Cape Perrin as it developed a couple of years ago on behalf of the council. So very happy. The wheels move so slowly, mate. They really do. But very happy it's finally been signed off as Class A reserve. And obviously, there's more work to be done there. It is worth, and again, Kelly said this, it's worth saying we're talking about light industry in East Baldivis. So, you know, we're not talking about massive cement works. We're talking about an industrial park, perhaps, where businesses can actually base themselves. So perhaps something along the lines of what you might see in Coburn, so that we can have people commuting to work locally. No, I don't see that impacting on our tree coverage. I'm very in favor of expanding the tree coverage and anything we can do to assist our local populations.
Fantastic. Just while I have you, are you aware, off the top of your head, and I understand I'm putting you on the spot here, do you know of the last time there was a rate freeze or a rate decrease even?
Oh, that's an easy question. We froze during COVID. I'm not aware of a decrease. And I could go so far as to say I'm not aware of a decrease anywhere across I don't think decreases are real thing, to be honest, Alistair. So when we talk about lower rates, we're not talking about lowering them from their current point. We're talking about keeping them in check, because I don't think anyone has a problem necessarily if we're seeing wage growth at 5%, CPI at 5%, then a 3% rates increase becomes a reasonable number to look at.
You've gotten a step ahead of me. I was about to ask about council rate pays and how whether they have consistently are they consistently raised year on year?
Well, I say for a couple of years we've managed a freeze and then a fairly conservative rise. We had predicted 5.9% this year. We managed to get that down to 3.9. No, I didn't personally think that was far enough, but I'm not allowed to reflect negatively on a decision of council. So I got to be careful. I'll get my hand slapped if I say too much on that. But suffice to say that for any council that's got 10 million banked as a surplus, to say that it can't find 690,000, which I think was what it was going to take to get us down to 3% rather than 3.9. I've got to call BS on that, and I did call BS on that in the council chamber, and I'll continue to do that going forward.
Excellent. All right, thank you for that. I would love to get everyone's opinion on so many more things, but I'm afraid we do have to wrap up. So I would like to just give you all this final opportunity to touch on anything very briefly that we didn't have a chance to get around to. So if we could just... Kelly, would you like to sign off? And I'll take this opportunity to thank you for everything you've said today and being here with us. What would you like to say?
Firstly, thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. Just some key points to sum up on why people should vote for me, I suppose. So I'm active in the local community. I'm active on social media. I have been attending council meetings for a couple of years. I provide executive summaries on some key agenda items coming up in council meetings, because I understand that residents don't have the time to read a 400-page agenda. I do that for them. So I've been kind of exposing the goings on in council for a couple of years now. I'm a long-standing resident of the city of Rockingham. Understanding the city's budget and financial reports is perhaps one of the most important parts of a councillor's role. So as a chartered accountant, I go through the budgets and the finances every year. I already have a firm grasp of those. I can provide my expertise into the budget setting process. I've got a really strong academic background. I've got a really strong work history. Importantly, I'm not affiliated with any company that tenders services to the city of Rockingham. I'm apolitical. And I just wanted to say, if you see me out in the community, say hi. I'm happy to chat anytime. Just send me a message on Baldivis Now or my candidacy page, and I'm always happy to catch up for a coffee and have a chat.
Excellent. Being an accountant, being a numbers person, elephant in the room, Fruitgate, too much?
In my opinion, yes.
Excellent. Peter, was there anything left on the table that you'd like to address, or we didn't get around to?
No, look, mate, I think we've done a pretty good job of touching on a range of topics today, and thanks for your epic MC skills. They've been great, mate. But I suppose just as a wrap up to the voters, I would say to them, look, if you want to vote for change in Rockingham and Safety Bay, if you want a fresh face, a young person who knows how to make both business and government work together to achieve real outcomes, then I would highly implore you to vote number 1 for Peter Hudson, because I'm a genuine, passionate local. I'm here in it for the long run, and I love our city. I think it's a great place to live, work, raise a family, but I also see the issues in which we could do better. Everyone knows that there are places that we could improve our city, particularly Safety Bay and Rockingham. So if you want someone who's going to fight for you and listen to you and advocate for you in council, then I'm your man.
Fantastic. Craig, final words.
Just to repeat what I said at the beginning, I guess, Alistair, I'm standing on my record. I've had 4 years spent listening and responding to local residents. You mentioned Fruitgate. Just to give you a one-liner, I'm the poor bloke that brought the motion forward. We'll be debating in the next couple of weeks to try and get rid of it. So I think there should be no doubt where I stand on that one. Look, if you're happy with the way I've informed the community, if you're happy with the way I've represented the community over the last 4 years, then I'd urge you to give me a second shot at it, a second term. If you're not, there are a lot of great candidates out there, and thank you to everyone who's put their names up, and wish everybody the best of luck.
Great. Jason.
Once again, thank you to IPL Radio for giving me this opportunity. I'd also like to extend thanks to all the candidates and councillors who are standing up in this election, especially you, Craig. I know that you've worked very hard to engage with the public, and those videos do help. And I do believe it sets itself up as a standard for councillors when it comes to public engagement. So very, very much thank you on that. I'm not the most educated person. I rely a lot on personal experience in community engagement. I am a bit rough around the edges, but I am an avid and quick learner. I'm willing to get my hands dirty, as you can very well see. And I have only Rockingham in mind as far as bettering the community for the residents, as well as anyone who considers Rockingham home.
Touching. Brett.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. I'd like to just quickly join the dots between a couple of topics we touched on earlier. One was consulting people within the community, and the other being social media. And I'd just like to quickly do a shout out. There are some people that are very passionate about what happens with the Rockingham Council, and they do voice their opinions in local Facebook groups. I recommend everybody sort of get in touch with them if you want to immerse yourself in what's going on in Rockingham. Quick shout out to people like Tony Murray, Diane Park, Teresa Ong, and PK. They're getting very passionate and very vocal about some of the issues that are going on, and providing some very interesting statistics on things like waste to energy treatment plants and the dredging and stuff. Like they have a lot of information on that, and they share it freely. Really easy to find. But yeah, after that, I would just like to say that I believe that councillors sort of should be able to weave through the community and connect with them, and sort of be the threads that hold the fabric of the community together by communicating with them and being approachable, being contactable, and knowing that if any member of the community brings up an issue, that the councillor they bring it up to will follow that through. And I think councillors should be like a household name, like they are the ones that represent you. And yeah, hopefully on October 22nd, I will be in a position where I get to work with some other amazing like-minded people for the betterment of Rockingham.
Sounds good. Rebecca, would you like to be a household name?
Thank you, Alistair. Yes, that would be lovely. And I think it would be lovely for every councillor to be a household name, as Brett has alluded to. And thank you to you and to IPL for today. And thank you to my fellow candidates, those that have appeared today and have given up your time today. It's valuable time and it is appreciated. We need change. We need some big change in the City of Rockingham Council, as far as I believe. And this is the time to do it. It's time for change. Baldivis is the fastest growing suburb in the City of Rockingham. And Baldivis, we definitely need change. So if you want greater financial accountability and transparency, if you are looking for someone who will go to bat for you, who will do their very best with strength and integrity and honesty, then I'm happy to help you. And I hope you vote. Those ballot papers that are currently on your tables, please don't waste them. Please don't waste them. We need you to pop them in the mail, or from next week, bring them down to the admin building at the city and pop them into the secure ballot box there.
Excellent. Great advice. Perfect. You've done my job for me, really.
Happy to do it.
With that, once again, it's been a joy to have you all here. I thank you for your pleasant and respectful discourse, and also for your clear, evident passion for improving the lives of the citizens of Rockingham. And I wish you all good luck in the upcoming election. Thank you for joining us here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, they were the candidates for the upcoming Rockingham local election. I've been Ali, trying to wrangle this group of very, very interesting, diverse crowd of candidates. I think there's a lot of good choices here. Can't go wrong, really, but do look into, listen back maybe, if you didn't take it all in the first time. Go and do some exploring and go down to your local the council building. There'll be lots more information there where you can do that. And do not forget your voting slip, which should be in the mail. And if it's not, go and track it down. Someone will be happy to make another one for you or something. So with that, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Tune into IPL Radio wherever you get your digital radio things. We use iHeartRadio. That's a good one. There are others. And see if you can't find you a new favorite radio show. Okay, bye.